Hey, everybody. Happy Wednesday night. I'm Angenette Levy. Thanks so much for logging on to my channel. If you haven't already, please hit that thumbs up button. It really helps the video in the YouTube universe, the algorithm, as they call it. And I'd love to have you as a subscriber. So please subscribe. Would love to have you as a subscriber too. If you're watching live, thank you so much for coming on and watching live. And if you're watching on replay, thank you for watching on replay. I love going on and seeing all the replay viewers. And also, you know the drill if you've been here before. And if you haven't, please drop in the city, state, country where you're watching from, because I love watching all of that and reading all of that after the lives are done and on the replays and everything. I was going to talk about, and I still am, going to talk about the former University of Kentucky cheerleader, Laken Snelling, who gave birth, she claims, sort of, to a baby who was not alive. But we got some late breaking news that just came in hot off the presses, if you will, from the Koberger case, the Idaho 4 case, regarding the injunction, the temporary restraining order. They had a temporary restraining order, but Maddie Mogen's mother and Ethan Chapin's parents wanted a permanent injunction for the crime scene photos showing the bodies of their loved ones. They went to court. They hired a lawyer. They were very upset with some of the redactions that were shown on a TV station. And they asked for a permanent injunction. That's a permanent order barring the city from releasing any so-called death scene photos. Excuse me. And that didn't happen. They didn't get a permanent injunction for, it doesn't sound like, from what I'm reading, and I'll pull it up here on the screen here in just a moment, for the crime scene photos. But the Judge Marshall, is ordering basically that the city black out the bodies of the deceased people, and Ethan, Maddie, Xana, and Kaylee, black out their bodies and any blood, black it out and redact it with black boxes or whatever, before releasing them. So it sounds like they're being told, and I'm going to pull up this memorandum of law because I still haven't read it. I just got it in. I want to read it, but I'll pull up the order, the judgment, really quickly. Ted Bundy just logged on, and I always can't believe it when I have to say Ted Bundy, but Ted Bundy's on here. This is a mosquito bite that I thank you for the super chat, Ted Bundy. And I had a feeling somebody, if I wore this shirt, I kind of had a feeling somebody was going to ask that, but no, it's a mosquito bite. And I have one like over on my arm too. It's really annoying. So I got bitten by a mosquito twice here and on my arm. So thank you for the super chat, guys, for asking for that. But yes, mosquito bite, matching mosquito bites on my arm and right here on my clavicle area, if you will. And it's driving me crazy. So anyway, excuse me. Let me pull this up and share my screen really quickly so you can see what Judge Marshall granted in the case regarding the crime scene photos. And I'll take a sip really fast so you don't have to listen to me cough again. In radio, excuse me, you're going to have to listen to that. In radio, they have like a cough button where you can push it and it mutes your mic. And so I guess I need one of those because all of the sudden I'm like, oh my God, what's going on? So here it is. You should be able to see that on your screen. I will make it a little bit bigger so you can see. Judgment is entered as follows. And remember, this was Karen Laramie, Maddie Mogen's mother, filing this lawsuit against the city. She was labeled an individual, of course. And then Stacy Chapin, James Chapin, Jim Chapin, that is Ethan's father. And then Maisie Chapin, his triplet sister, one of his siblings, filing this versus the city of Moscow. Judgment is entered as follows for the reasons set forth in the memorandum decision granting in part plaintiff's complaint for permanent injunction. The city of Moscow is permanently restrained from disclosing photographs or videos without first blacking out any areas within those investigatory records that depict any portion of the bodies of the decedents or the blood immediately surrounding them. So that is the order from Judge Marshall. So let's go over now to the memorandum of law. And I don't even know how many pages it is. 14 pages. Looks like the real meat of it is probably 13 to 12 pages. And we'll look at that part. And I do want to say, again, guys, thanks for tuning in. If you have emailed me and I haven't responded, I will be responding. So I apologize if I have not gotten back to you. So just know that if you have emailed me and I haven't gotten back to you, I apologize and will be getting back to you soon. So thank you. So here is the memorandum decision granting in part plaintiff's complaint for permanent injunction. It gives the background and it talks about the materials that were generated, which ultimately led to Brian Koberger's arrest. For a multitude of reasons, the criminal case garnered worldwide interest. Until July 2nd, 2025, the criminal case was pending trial, and until July 17th, a non-dissemination order was in place, which prevented the disclosure of certain records to preserve the parties' right to a fair trial. On July 23rd, 2025, a judgment of conviction and commitment was entered, concluding the criminal proceeding. And since July 23rd, the city has received more than 1,150 public records requests for information related to the criminal investigation, including but not limited to crime scene photographs, 911 calls, police reports, body camera footage, witness statements, autopsy reports, and MPD investigatory records. In response to the request, the city made redacted police reports available to the public. We already knew that, and disclosed 186 photographs taken at the crime scene, some with blurring over the decedent's body. On August 11th, the city provided copies of these photographs and certain redacted video to plaintiff's counsel and informed counsel that the city would be disclosing the redacted videos, including redacted body camera videos from MPD officers that depict the crime scene, as well as other materials within the coming days. Upon reviewing the photographs and videos provided, plaintiff's counsel emailed a response to the city objecting to the release of any additional materials in the case because it would constitute a violation of plaintiff's personal privacy. On August 12th, Karen Laramie, Mogen's mother, filed this complaint for an injunction restraining the city of Moscow from releasing further images related to the homicide investigation of plaintiff's daughter. Along with her complaint, Laramie filed an ex parte motion for temporary restraining order following an in-camera review of 4 redacted body cam videos and approximately 181 photographs, in order granting plaintiff's motion for temporary restraining order and temporary restraining order. I think that was in there twice for some reason, were issued on August 15th, 2025, that temporarily restrained the city from disclosing any images, audio, or video depicting the inside of Mogen's bedroom until a hearing on the preliminary or permanent injunction. On August 21st, the city released additional body cam videos and crime scene photographs that blacked out the bedrooms entirely in lieu of blurring the decedent's bodies. I think that's what we received at Law and Crime, the body camera video that had the big black blocks over all of the bedrooms. On August 23rd, plaintiffs filed their first amended complaint, adding Stacy and James Chapin, Chapin's parents, and Maisie Chapin, his sister. Plaintiffs seek a permanent injunction restraining the city from releasing images of the interior of victims' residence, images of the victims, whether blurred or not, images of the bedrooms where the victims were murdered, images of the death scenes / murder scenes, including images of pools of blood splatter. She's calling it splatter. It's actually spatter, and dried blood. And number 5, images of the personal property and items of the victims of the homicides found inside the interior and exterior of the residence, including but not limited to containers of alcohol, underwear, ID cards, and other personal items. Number 6, images of witnesses, including witnesses hugging each other and sobbing. Number 7, video and audio media containing sounds of the witnesses, including sounds of them sobbing. Number 8, video and audio media containing statements of witnesses given to law enforcement officials, including statements evidencing their extreme emotions. That's kind of like going way beyond. That doesn't fly. But on August 25th, 2025, the parties submitted a stipulation of the parties submitting this matter for a decision on the permanent injunction based on the declarations, pleadings, and briefings on file. On August 28th, 2025, a hearing was held on plaintiff's complaint via Zoom. I watched that. So let's skip ahead. Judge Marshall goes through the legal standard and says a party may petition the court for an injunction or restraining order in a civil proceeding. While Rule 65 addresses temporary restraining orders and preliminary injunctions, it only briefly addresses permanent injunctions by stating that before or after beginning the hearing on a motion for a preliminary injunction, the court may advance the trial on the merits and consolidate it with a hearing. Here, the parties stipulated to essentially forego a hearing on a preliminary injunction and instead submit the matter for a decision on the permanent injunction at the August 28th, 2025 hearing. Unlike a temporary injunction, a permanent injunction is entered at the resolution of the case and requires a showing of threatened or actual irreparable injury. Further, in order to deny a permanent injunction, the trial court must be persuaded that there is no reasonable expectation that the wrong will be repeated. Then they go through the Public Records Act. There is a presumption that all public records in the state are open for inspection except as otherwise provided by statute. Idaho Code 74-102, paragraph 1. It provides a statutory mechanism by which members of the public may review public records so that they may be knowledgeable of the operations of their government, the performance of public officials, and the formulation of public policy. Okay, they define a public record, blah, blah, blah. Specific to this case, law enforcement investigatory records are public records. Investigatory record means information with respect to an identifiable person, group of persons, or entities compiled by a public agency pursuant to its statutory authority in the course of investigating a specific act, omission, failure to act, or other conduct over which the public agency has regulatory authority or law enforcement authority. Blah, blah, blah. The parties agree that the records to be disclosed are public records, and more specifically, law enforcement investigatory records. The plaintiffs have a standing to assert a privacy interest in the records to be disclosed. First, the court must determine what privacy interest, if any, the plaintiffs have. Okay, so let's just scroll to, I'm going to get to the bottom of this. While the plaintiffs are considered victims and afforded certain rights as set forth in the Idaho Code, the court finds Idaho Code 74-101, blah, 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 does not have application in this particular case. The information to be disclosed is not being used to identify, locate, or harass a victim of an alleged crime of mass violence. There's no alleged suspected or unproven crime. The victims are known, located, and the murderer has been convicted and sentenced to life imprisonment. Likewise, disclosure is not being used to harass the victim, even if the term victim encompasses family members. However, it does apply here and provides standing for plaintiffs to assert their claim. The Idaho Supreme Court has yet to address the issue of whose privacy interest is protected under these Idaho codes. I had some people tell me that they did not believe that the victims' families could assert privacy rights and things of that nature. So she's going through all this stuff. She goes through a lot of this. Okay, so let's go to the end. So for the reasons stated above, the city's disclosure of certain investigatory records would constitute an unwarranted invasion of personal privacy. Plaintiffs have established the disclosure of such records has caused irreparable injury, and further disclosure will result in the wrong being repeated. Therefore, plaintiff's complaint for a permanent injunction is granted. So they're basically saying that re-releasing items, things like it says further releasing images that include alcohol containers, underwear, ID cards, or other personal items of the decedents may appear embarrassing or reveal speculation as to what may or may not have occurred within the residence, but it does not impugn the character of the decedent in a way that constitutes an unwarranted invasion of personal privacy. Therefore, the city shall, upon request and in accordance with its statutory obligation, disclose the investigatory records as to the death scene records noted above, or those subject to any other statutory exemption or redaction rule. So it seems like they're just basically saying she's denying it, where you can't redact stuff of people crying and stuff like that, but the bodies and the blood and the images surrounding them, that can be redacted. So there you have it. So I don't know if the families will really, I don't know if the families will might be sort of happy with this, but sort of not, because the judge basically gave them half of what they wanted. So they're not really getting all of what they wanted. Some of what they were asking for doesn't fly. Like you're not going to redact, this was part of the scene, like outside when witnesses are upset and things like that. I've never heard of that being redacted. So I would be shocked if a judge would allow that. So the long and short of it is Judge Marshall is telling them that basically she's giving them part of what they want and not all of what they want. They wanted nothing else released of inside the house. Literally, it sounded like they wanted nothing released, but the judge is saying, no, we can't do that. And we're not going to do that. That's not what the law calls for or allows. So she's saying the rest of the stuff can be released. Photographs, videos, the bodies, and the blood have to be redacted with black boxes. So there you have it. I don't think that's totally unexpected, because I had talked to people that I know who are both very knowledgeable with public records law and have been in charge of redacting public records in the past, not in Idaho, but in other states. And that's just not how it works. Like wanting to redact people crying and stuff like that. I mean, that's part of it's sad and it's horrible, but that is just not what happens with public records. So there you go. let's move on to what I initially said I was going to. I don't understand. Yeah, the alcohol bottles. We've already seen all the alcohol in the house, or much of it. And this whole speculation about what happened in the house, like I'm confused about what they even mean by that. And maybe I need to look further into their original filing. But I mean, Brian Koberger stood up in open court and admitted when asked that, yes, he broke into this house. He burglarized this house. Remember, he pleaded guilty to a burglary count and 4 murder charges. He broke in to this house with the intention of committing the crime of murder. He stood up in court and said that. He said yes when asked that. He pleaded guilty to it. He admitted to it. So he admitted he broke into that house dressed in all black to commit murder. So speculation about what may have happened in that house, like what are we talking about? Like my mind's kind of going into other places, but I'm kind of wondering what are you guys talking about? So it just seems kind of weird to me because I'm like, is there something we don't know? Or because they said there was no connection between Koberger and these victims. They could find no connection. So what's the deal? I mean, the alcohol, it was a party house. We already knew that. We've seen the videos, the body camera footage of them showing up at parties and dumping out the kids' alcohol. Yes. Beautiful Messy Ball says, sadly, there are still people who think he's innocent. Yes. I see those people on my Twitter feed all the time. I see them all the time. And I mean, they're more than welcome to tell me why, but I see these people on Twitter and they're behind these accounts where they don't even look like their accounts. I don't know what the right name for these accounts are, but it's like real people behind the accounts, but they're like not their real names and stuff like that. So that's what I'm seeing when I see this stuff on Twitter. That's exactly what I'm seeing. So there are real people behind these accounts, operating these accounts, saying, yeah, he's innocent and he's this, that, and the other. But they're not, they're saying all this stuff. And it's like, have you actually read the documents? Did you watch the hearing? Because I have read every document in this case, and I will read every document that is unsealed. I've read all of them probably twice to make sure I had all my facts right, because I've been reporting on this case. Sadly, I mean, it's sad that it ever happened, but I've been reporting on it now for nearly 3 years. It will be 3 years next month. Have you people not read these documents? Do you think Ann Taylor stood up in court and was like, yeah, I'm going to let my guy plead guilty to 4 counts of murder and go to prison for the rest of his life? I'm going to let him do this and run the risk of like screwing up my law license and being possibly found ineffective down the line when I think he didn't do it. And when you think these two haven't had some discussions over the years? Ted Bundy, thank you for the super chat again. That photograph, your avatar or whatever, I don't know your profile picture. I don't know what to think of that, but I do have some calamine lotion upstairs. Thank you very much for thinking of my mosquito bite, because it's really driving me crazy. It just like is getting worse. I have some upstairs. It's the spray kind and it's fabulous. I got it at Target. Just a little commercial there. I don't usually endorse products, but this stuff is amazing. And I will go up and I will spray it here and I will spray it on my other one. So thank you so much. All right. So we are going to talk a little bit more about the Koberger stuff another time, because I advertised that I was going to talk about other things, but the breaking news, if you will, came out and I thought that I should address it and that you guys would want to know. So Now, that said, with what I just said about Koberger and Ann Taylor, I'm not ruling out the possibility that something gets filed down the line. I've told you guys this before. I don't think this is over. And if they get to the bottom of the Dateline leak, I could totally see if they find out who did the Dateline leak and it was somebody on the law enforcement side, I could see them going back and trying to file, I don't know, do they file a habeas petition and say, my client's rights were so violated by this and by the process that we felt like we had no choice but to have him plead guilty. We weren't getting a continuance. We were so prejudiced, blah, blah, blah. So I kind of think about this stuff all the time. I'm like, it just seemed too like easy peasy at the end. Like the way they shut it all down right at it was weird the way it happened. Especially with the state really getting nothing out of this. They got him to stand up in court and say, yeah, I did it. The bare minimum, the absolute bare minimum, but got no proffer from him. I've told you guys that before. And I just think in a quadruple homicide, a case like this, I find that to be wild. Oh, that one guy just gifted 5 memberships. That's so sweet. Thank you so much. I will shout out the new members. Thank you for doing that. This is so sweet, that one guy. And we'll shout out the new members here at the end. Let's move on now to this young woman who's in a whole world of trouble in Kentucky. In the bluegrass state, Kentucky. Her name is Laken Snelling. She is 21 years old, and she is a now former University of Kentucky cheerleader. She was on what they call the stunt team. I guess that's what they're calling cheerleading squads these days, the stunt team. Well, Laken, in August, gave birth to a baby boy. And Laken Snelling gave birth to her baby boy in a house that she shared with her college roommates. Now, this all went down in Lexington, Kentucky. And I am having like flashbacks. If all of you have followed these crime stories for a while, I'm having flashbacks to a trial I covered in 2019. The case happened before that, the actual case. But in 2019, I covered the case of Skylar Richardson, the trial of Skylar Richardson. And this picture is giving me flashbacks to Skylar Richardson. And Skylar Richardson was a high school cheerleader in a conservative area, Warren County, Ohio. And this is when I worked in local news. And she gave birth to a baby girl, who she claimed was dead, was stillborn when she had the baby. Instead of telling somebody about this, the story was that she had the baby and then buried the baby in her backyard under this super heavy flower planter thing that she gives birth, digs a hole. She literally gives birth. She's like a cheerleader and she's like a smaller girl. When she would come to court for the trial, it was shocking how skinny she was. She was so tiny. She also had an eating disorder. Like the relationship with her mother was not healthy at all. If you read their text messages, her mom was literally encouraging her to diet, to get on the treadmill. Holy moly. I just remember like at the trial, I was like, oh my God. Like no woman should ever talk to her daughter that way. And so the story was that it's like around prom time. And I think it was like right at prom. She literally gives birth in her bathroom, and she says she gives birth and she's like on the toilet and the baby falls into the toilet. It was horrific. Anyway, she was charged with aggravated murder. The case ended up at trial being a hot mess for a number of reasons. I'm not going to go into all the nitty-gritty details, but it was a mess. And she ended up being acquitted of aggravated murder charges and the death of baby Annabelle. And all that was left of baby Annabelle were these like bones. It was horrible. It was horrible. We would see the baby's bones up on the screen. It was just terrible. So this is Laken Snelling, and it feels like Skylar Richardson 2.0, except she's in college. She apparently, her roommates, according to what I'm about to read to you, suspected that she was hiding a pregnancy. They heard some noises in the middle of the night, and it sounded like something banging on the wall. She, the next morning, tells them on a group text, "Oh, I passed out last night. That's what that noise was." Because they were all like, "What's going on? What was that noise?" It's like 4 a.m. She said, "Oh, I passed out. And that was me. Sorry about the noise," or whatever. So she gets dressed, apparently, and she's going to go to class. She goes to McDonald's. Well, her roommates are suspicious. So they go into her room and they look in her closet and they find a baby, a newborn baby wrapped in bags in a towel. And the baby is deceased. So we're talking newborn baby, hours old. They call the cops, of course. The cops go track her down and pick her up. So there's all this new information that's coming out because the cops got a search warrant for her Snapchat and all this stuff. I do not do Snapchat. I know a lot of people do Snapchat. I have Snapchat. I don't use it. But apparently a lot of college kids and younger people use Snapchat. So I'm going to read to you what they said. It was the 4 a.m. hour of August 27th, and one of the roommates sent the message in the group chat stating she heard loud noises that sounded like something had fallen. At 8:48 a.m., Miss Snelling sent a text to the group chat stating that those noises were caused by her passing out, like I told you. So that they were curious, the roommates were. This is all according to what the cops wrote in an affidavit for the search warrant. They wanted to know the source of the noise. So these roommates, these girls are like, "I'm not buying what she's saying." And they thought she was pregnant anyway. They found a blood-soaked towel on the floor and a plastic bag containing evidence of childbirth. I don't know if that's placenta or what. They looked in Ms. Snelling's closet and located the deceased newborn placed in bags, plural, more than one bag, and the newborn appeared to be a full-term baby. All of the occupants had suspicions that Ms. Snelling was pregnant, but never confirmed it with her. So the reason she communicated with her roommates on Snapchat. So that's why the cop is like, "I need this warrant," because they already found, apparently, they found some evidence in her phone that she had taken photos and videos like while she was giving birth. This is all according to this stuff. So let me get to the part I was going to read you. So she was taken to UK hospital because she told the cops she wanted to get checked out. She had just had a baby hours earlier. So this is after the trip to McDonald's. And she said that this cop says, "I read her rights, her Miranda rights, or read her the Miranda warning." And she said that was fine. And she still wanted to speak with him. She said that it was around 4 a.m. that she gave birth to the baby, and the baby fell into the floor of her bedroom. She didn't think the baby was breathing, and she advised that she was awake for around 30 minutes after giving birth before falling on top of the baby. Ms. Snelling said that when she woke up from passing out, she quickly got up and observed the baby turning blue and purple, Laken said that she believed the baby to be dead and wrapped the baby up like a burrito and laid next to it on the floor, or laid next to it in the floor, it says, but it's a typo. It should be on the floor because it gave her a little comfort in the moment. Ms. Snelling said she was woken up by her alarm at 7:30 a.m. for class at 9:30. She said that she was still bloody and needed to get a shower, and she went to the kitchen. She said she placed the baby, which was still wrapped up inside of the towel, inside of the black trash bag that she had gotten out of the kitchen, and placed the black trash bag in the closet. She then went to a shower and clean up. She said after taking the shower, she came back into her room and started to clean up the rest of the blood. Miss Snelling said that she used paper towels and the towel she had wrapped the baby in to clean up the rest of the blood. She said she placed the placenta inside of a Ziploc bag and placed it inside of the black trash bag. Oh my God. Miss Snelling said she wrapped up the baby back with the towel that she had cleaned the rest of the blood up with. Miss Snelling stated she then placed the black trash bag back into the closet. She stated that she left her residence after this and went to school. She stated she did not go into class, but sat in her vehicle in the parking lot. She stated she wasn't feeling well, so she ordered McDonald's through the McDonald's app. And she said that after getting the McDonald's, she went to UK's student clinic, where she also did not go inside. After this, Ms. Snelling stated that she returned home, where she was detained and transported to headquarters for questioning. It should be noted that when speaking to medical staff at the UK Labor and Delivery Unit, she stated that the baby had a little bit of fetal movement, but passed out shortly after Ms. Snelling stated during questioning by myself and Detective Martinez that the only time she passed out was around 30 minutes after giving birth, which leads me to believe that the baby could have been moving. She also told the medical staff that the baby made a whimper and that she guessed the baby was alive. So this could be a problem, because this could be a problem. I don't know, because it's becoming a problem in New Mexico with the Lexi Treviso case. I don't know if the doctors, I don't know if they're allowed. I guess they are if they think a crime was committed, but I would have to know what the deal is in Kentucky with that. Like if they're allowed to tell that stuff. Because there's all kinds of stuff going on. There's all kinds of stuff going on in New Mexico with the Lexi Treviso case, where some evidence may get thrown out because, you know, it was like the body camera footage, the cops being in there, and they're like using the doctors to investigate. It's a hot mess. So it might get thrown out. So Laken Snelling was in court the other day. I covered this on Law and Crime, and she, could have gotten a preliminary hearing, and that would have allowed her attorney to get the detective on the stand and ask some questions. Well, I kind of had a feeling this would happen. I was like, is she going to waive this hearing? Because you can do that. And that does happen, where preliminary hearings, sometimes the attorney will advise their client to just waive the hearing. Like, you don't need to do this. We don't need to do this. Because right now, the Fayette County coroner, medical examiner, whatever it is saying the baby's death, the cause of death, is inconclusive. They're doing further testing to just determine what the baby's cause and manner of death is. Right now, it's inconclusive. They have to do further testing. So maybe they saw something. We don't know. Maybe they saw something on autopsy and they're just ruling it right now as inconclusive or undetermined or whatever, because they need to do everything, toxicology, some other testing, to really finalize the result. If they determine that this baby suffocated and they determine other things, I mean, she could be facing a serious criminal charge. Right now, she's charged with concealing the death of an infant, tampering with evidence, and also abuse of a corpse. So she is likely in some big trouble. So this is a baby that was born hours before. So they should be able to tell quite a bit from the condition of this baby. I was a little shocked when I read this, but not entirely shocked. So this is Laken Snelling, and it really could get bad for her. And I think her attorney waived this hearing because she may have already told her attorney what happened. Her attorney may already have this affidavit for the search warrant. She may have already told him flat out, like, this is what happened. So because she waived this hearing, and the standard for this hearing is very low, it's probable cause. The judge just has to find in a preliminary hearing that the Commonwealth of Kentucky has put enough evidence on to show there's probable cause that she committed the crimes of abuse of a corpse, concealing the death of an infant, and tampering with evidence. Probable cause is a really low bar. I think like they basically just have to walk in the door and answer a couple of questions and they prove that. And the attorney probably did not want a detective getting up on the stand and testifying to this. And there's been all this media coverage on it so far. The next step is she's basically conceded there's probable cause that she did these things. They will present the case to the grand jury, but they have to, and they'll get an indictment on these charges. But the question is, what caused that baby's death? Because she's telling the cops she thinks the baby was stillborn. If she actually told, as this document says, that she told the staff at the hospital she thought the baby whimpered and things of that nature, I mean, she could be in big trouble. I mean, I have no problem believing that she may have passed out. I mean, I can't even imagine giving birth to a child in my bedroom. No anesthesia, nothing. What is so sad to me about this is that a case like this, she could have called 911 when she knew she was in labor. She could have gone to the hospital and she could have said, I can't keep this baby. And hospitals are safe havens. So you can surrender the baby and say, I can't take care of this baby. And you can surrender babies to police departments, fire departments, medical facilities. They are safe havens. And you say, I can't take care of this baby. I want to surrender this baby. Arrangements could have been made beforehand. There are so many couples out there who want to have children and can't. So that's what just upsets me so much about these cases. It's just like there are so many options. And then I've also interviewed the woman, interviewed her a few years back, actually, who created the safe haven baby boxes, where they're putting these in different states when the legislation passes, where there's a box. It sounds crazy, but it's not. And you just open the box. It's like at a firehouse or a police department, and you can pull it open. You can put the baby inside anonymously, and you close the box. And then once you do that, like a bell rings or whatever, and it alerts somebody that, hey, there's a baby in the box. And then they come and they get the baby and they figure out what to do. So it's just so sad to me in this day and age that young women are feeling that they can't figure this out somehow. Like Google it, or that this is like the solution, and we don't know how the baby died yet. We really don't. Like we don't. So we need to hold off. But she's telling the cops, according to this document, that the baby, she didn't think the baby was breathing. And then she's telling medical staff she thinks the baby whimpered. It's like, yikes. So I don't know. I feel like there needs to be an effort to spread the word to these young women that I can understand being confused and scared and upset. And who knows? Sometimes maybe family pressure plays into this. They think, oh my God, I can't have this baby, but my mom and dad are going to like force me to keep this baby. Well, you're 21. They can't force you to do anything. I guess if they're paying for your college, they can force you to do a lot. You're still under their insurance, whatever. However, you're still a grown woman. You're still 21 years old. You're a kid. I mean, in my eyes, you're still kind of a kid, even though you're legally an adult. So it's like, just makes me so sad. So PSA here from Angenette Levy. There are plenty of families who would love to have a baby, who like couples who cannot have babies. Maybe they're having trouble conceiving or what have you. There are plenty of families out there, and there are resources to help you. So I don't know. It's just really sad to me. So I was going to update you guys on Charile Kirk, on what happened on that investigation. There is all kinds of craziness going on, but I think I am going to wrap it up for tonight, and we can talk about this another night. So I've been doing Saturday nights. I also covered a case today at Law and Crime that I've covered before, but I did a follow-up with the father, this young woman, Logan Federico. I kind of want to tell you guys all about that sometime. Insane case out of South Carolina. Logan Federico murdered while visiting her friends in South Carolina. She's from North Carolina, and it's horrible. So I'll tell you all about that in my conversation with her father, Steve Federico, and what happened when he testified in front of a House Judiciary Subcommittee on Monday. So it was crazy, but I covered it on Crime Fix today. So I appreciate you guys all tuning in. Thank you so much. We'll hit on Charile Kirk and the latest on that on Saturday night. What's going on there to me is a little crazy. He appeared in court. I'm sorry, Tyler Robinson. He appeared in court the other day, but he didn't. He did not appear in person. His attorneys were there in person. He was appearing virtually without his camera on. Weird, totally weird. I can only assume that his lawyers didn't have clothes for him or something. I don't know. My solution to that is go to Walmart and buy the guy a pair of pants and a shirt. I don't get it. That's just what I'm saying. So weird stuff there. And all the case is weird. Don't get me wrong. It's a weird case, but there's some craziness going on YouTube about this case. And so I really want to know what you guys think about that, because I think there are a lot of legitimate questions, but there is one creator in particular who I've interviewed in the past who is like getting massive numbers of views saying like, I know this, I know that, I've been told this, and it's kind of wild to me. It's kind of wild to me that she's like getting zillions of views every day on what she is saying. So we will talk more about that another time. Guys, thank you so much for watching. And again, if you would hit the thumbs up, hit that subscribe button. I appreciate it. Let's shout out the new members. And thank you again for those new memberships that were purchased. Our new members, Beautiful Messy Ball. Hey there, you got a membership. Karen G, welcome. Kay, welcome to your new member. And Tayo Toys. Oh my God, Phil, you're a member now. That's so exciting. And Chris Hankey, welcome. All right, everybody. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Have a great rest of your Wednesday. I will cook up some good stuff in the Angenette kitchen for Saturday night. And for those of you who are upset with me breathing into my microphone, I'm working on it. And I don't know what else to do. I got to breathe, guys. I have to breathe, and I'm here talking by myself. So, and thank you to the mods, Monty, Mo, Melmac, Webby. Thank you for being here. And as I mentioned earlier, if you emailed me, I will get back to you. So if I haven't, I apologize. So see you later. Have a great week. Bye-bye.